Okay, so Q-Max Vayne is obviously an amazing duelist, since your Q's burst damage massively scales with its level, allowing for super explosive skirmishes in lane. But if you think that you would sacrifice Vayne's teamfight potential by maxing Q, I would like to show you this. Q-Max Vayne is an extremely strong new playstyle currently on the rise, and here's what happened. First of all, Riot directly adjusted how Vayne's abilities work. For the longest time, the most common playstyle on Vayne was to max W and combine it with an early Ginzo's Rageblade. The idea was very tempting. Dealing 12% max health true damage in 3 attacks is effectively the same as dealing 4% max HP true damage on hit in a longer fight, and Rageblade further multiplies that damage with its passive. Now all you needed to do was buy more attack speed, which allowed you to cut down even the tankiest targets without any problems. However, the strategy had a fatal flaw, because Vayne couldn't really make plays in the early game. Her lane phase was extremely weak, and you didn't have much agency before you finished both Rageblade and Shield Bow, which made Vayne a liability in solo queue. But this is where Riot's buffs come into play. They gave Vayne's Q a massive 35% increase on its AD ratio at rank 5, making it way more rewarding to max. At the same time, they decreased Vayne's rank 5 W damage while increasing the rank 1 W damage, breaking even at rank 3. This also made it less punishing to leave W at 1 skill point, giving further incentive to max out Q. At first, many Vayne players were quite stubborn, still holding onto the W max playstyle simply because they were so used to it. They were too lazy to theorycraft new item builds to take advantage of Q's AD ratio, so they sticked to what they knew. But some Vayne players actually did come up with new playstyles, allowing them to reap the benefits of a much more aggressive early game, perfectly suited for the solo queue environment. Slowly but surely, these players start outnumbering the old school Vayne players, and especially in higher elo, they are undeniably more successful. In order to get the most out of Vayne's improved AD ratio with Q-Max, you need an entirely new item build. You have to forgo attack speed in favor of items that provide more attack damage, but this player right here takes it even a step further. Instead of the keystone lethal tempo, they opt to fully commit to the burst damage playstyle and take press the attack for an even stronger early game. Burst damage is king during early skirmishes. You get to retreat to safety immediately after, if necessary, while your upfront damage is likely to remove the enemy from the fight altogether. Of course, the choice between lethal tempo and press the attack is not trivial, and deciding which keystone to take can be quite tough. Yes, press the attack's damage can matter a lot during the early game, especially since it allows you to punish your opponent's mistakes in lane. But lethal tempo is absolutely crazy during late game fights. Since you still max W by level 13, the bonus attack speed and range from lethal tempo will eventually start to massively outperform press the attack's burst damage. However, we will talk more in depth about correct rune choices later in the video. There is another benefit of Q-Max Vayne that I have not yet addressed, and it is connected to Vayne's level 6 power spike. Vayne's ultimate is extremely scary for the opponent, and in many matchups this spell by itself completely turns the power dynamics. Now, all of a sudden it is the enemy who needs to be afraid of Vayne's all-in potential and not vice versa. But Q-Max takes that even a step further. Not only does the ultimate's bonus AD directly feed into Q's improved AD ratio, but putting skill points in Q also means you get a lower Q cooldown, so more uptime on Vayne's stealth. The combination of high damage and high mobility gives you a lot of playmaking potential, making it very risky for the enemy jungler to provoke a fight. By the way, keep in mind that if you want to have educational league content like this in your personal feed, all you need to do is click the subscribe button. But how does this playstyle perform outside of lane phase? Sure, you'll eventually get more points in W regardless, but you still heavily invest in attack damage, foregoing items like Rageblade or Wit's End. However, in teamfights, your consistent DPS will still be much better than that of most other marksmen if you buy the items I will show you, and during the mid-game you must not underestimate the protection from Q stealth. Yes, you are a priority target, but that hardly matters when you can tumble out of vision every 2 seconds only to return to the fight with massive burst damage before vanishing again. Just because your DPS in longer fights is slightly worse compared to the old playstyle, that doesn't mean it would now be terrible all of a sudden. You're still Vayne. Even without overly emphasizing your true damage and percent HP damage on hit, Vayne is still a tank slayer and no amounts of bonus HP or armor will save your enemy from a late game Vayne. It still holds true that it doesn't matter whom you attack, as long as you're attacking someone. Vayne is very good at not getting hit due to all her outplay potential, and a healthy Vayne with a full AD build can delete tanks, squishies and bruisers alike. But let's now talk about the runes and items that best synergize with this new playstyle. One rune page that I can highly recommend is Lethal Tempo or Press the Attack, Triumph, Legend Alacrity and Coup de Grace with Bone Plating and Overgrowth secondary. We've already talked about the issue of Lethal Tempo versus Press the Attack. Again, PTA is strong early but weaker late, whereas Lethal Tempo is weak early but stronger late. Especially considering how much attack damage you will buy, you can definitely go for Lethal Tempo every single game to complement your build with its attack speed, and you'll be fine. The rune is very strong on Vayne, and Qmax doesn't change much about this fact. However, if you want to, you can use both these keystones with a very simple flowchart. If your support is a tank or all-in champion, in other words, if they have early kill pressure, you can pick Press the Attack. In these matchups, the extra burst damage in lane is likely to matter a lot. It can easily be the difference between converting a Nautilus Hook or Leona E into a kill, or barely missing out. In all other matchups, however, it will be safer to just stick to Lethal Tempo. Especially with more passive Enchanter supports, you can safely scale into the late game, reaping Lethal Tempo's full benefits. Triumph is the best rune in the next row for early fights, and this is exactly what Qmax Vayne excels in. However, Overheal is a noteworthy alternative for more safety during teamfights, and I would say it comes down to personal preference. Legend Alacrity is a must-have. Vayne, of course, greatly synergizes with attack speed, but Legend Alacrity is also a rune with front-loaded power, which further gives you more agency during the ever-so-crucial lane phase. Coup de Grace is also vital in early fights where it matters most, and from my experience, a rune like Cutdown would just be overkill on Vayne. You are a late game monster anyway, and with Qmax we want to accentuate your early to mid game burst damage. Overgrowth is picked for late game safety. At that stage it is important to be able to auto-attack consistently for W procs, but that also means that the enemy will have opportunity to hit you back. Here, Overgrowth can help you to stay alive long enough to apply your lifesteal and keep fighting. Bone Plating is perfect for early all-ins. The lane phase is a game of inches, and blocking just one auto-attack's worth of damage in an early fight often is the difference between life and death. However, against poke lanes you can swap this rune for Second Wind, preventing the enemy from bullying you for Vayne's average range and lackluster wave clear. Your item build is very straightforward, but nonetheless extremely effective. You can go for the following 6 items in this exact order every single game, which means it will be one less thing to worry about. Always start with Berserker's Greaves into Kraken Slayer. This will be all the attack speed you need to function, and Kraken Slayer is also the highest AD mythic in the game, making for perfect synergy with Q's buffed AD ratio. Your second item, Bloodthirster, comes with a great build path and much needed lifesteal, and since the item has recently been buffed, it is a good replacement for Shield Bow. It also comes with 55 more bonus AD, again feeding into Q's burst damage. but with Infinity Edge you're actually entering one-shot territory. I have this feeling that many people forgot how much burst damage Vayne can deal with this item, since everyone has been buying Rageblade this whole time instead. This is definitely where your Q damage will be at its peak. But being this far into the game, it is now time to get more attack speed to deal with the enemy frontline. Phantom Dancer is effectively your armor pen item, as funny as that may sound. But its attack speed steroid allows you to apply your now also maxed out W and your crack and true damage over and over, which means tanks will now die very quickly as well. The last item is often a defensive utility item like Guardian Angel, but if you feel like you absolutely have to, you can also still get Lord Doms here. However, the late game with Vayne is a walk in the park anyway, and the whole point of Qmax with AD items is to be useful early game. And if you want to take your early game to the next level, you should definitely watch my ADC lane phase guide by clicking the link on your screen right there.